the Gen X Remix, Midlife, Laughs, and Next Acts. I'm your host, Tabitha Jones. And today my question, friend, is, have you ever been feeling stuck in a career that no longer fits? Well, our next guest, Brittany Cates, knows exactly how that feels. As a former teacher, she spent years battling burnout, fear, and self-doubt, convincing herself that staying was the safe choice, even though deep down she knew she was meant for something more. It wasn't until she discovered her passion for UX design, took a leap of faith, and hired a career coach that everything changed. She transitioned into a thriving UX career, proving to herself that career pivots are possible. Now, as a career coach herself and host of Shift Your Day Job podcast, Brittany helps women who feel stuck in their careers find clarity, confidence, and the courage to take action. Her mission? To help women step into their power and create a career and life they truly love. Let's jump in. All right. Well, Brittany, I am so excited that you're joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on your podcast, Tabitha. It's nice to see you again because you've been on mine. So
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. We were just chatting a little before the show. I said it felt like it'd been forever since we'd connected, but I do stalk you all over LinkedIn. So I love it. I love your podcast and really everything that you're doing. So to get started, I love to ask my guests to tell me about your most significant remix.
my most significant life remix is that I used to be an elementary school teacher, and I transitioned out of that career and into UX design. And I now work in the corporate world, so very different from what I was doing. And it was definitely a journey because when I originally, like all growing up, I knew I wanted to be an artist of some sort. And so in my mind, I was like, well, what kind of artist or art can actually make money? And I had settled on graphic design. And that is where I started my college degree. I have an associate's degree in graphic design, but it even took me a while to build up the confidence to go for that. Cause you have to submit a portfolio and like do like an interview to be accepted to this art program. And it was just, I didn't know it then, but it was the imposter syndrome of, I don't think I'm good enough. That kind of, it took me a while to even do that, to go through that whole process. But I did graduate with a degree. An associate's degree, moved on to get my bachelor's in it. And again, my imposter syndrome popped up as I was in that program at a university. And so I made a switch while in school, and I switched to elementary education. And it was almost like the first year that I started teaching, I just knew this wasn't it, and it was tough to work through all of that stuff, because like the knowing versus the outside expectations and like what I was hearing from other people really kind of just kept me where I was for a really long time. And I did try and change my career once before, went back to teaching again. And then the last time I changed my career, I did a few things differently. And now I'm doing UX design. So, yeah, it's definitely been a process to get to that point of where I was ready to do it.
That is a pretty serious remix. First of all, going from graphic design as your initial plan into teaching, that is a pretty big leap. But I get it. When you say imposter syndrome, I swear it's the worst. It is the thing that keeps us stuck in fear. It's the thing that keeps us stuck doing things we hate to do. It is the thing that makes us play so small and keep our just voices low and our heads down. And it can really impact your life as it did in the story that you just shared in your early days. So when you say UX design, there might be some teachers listening right now who are like, I want that. What is UX design? Let's give a little bit of a breakdown there.
Of course, yeah. UX stands for user experience. So user experience design means you are taking a website or an app and you're thinking about the experience as a whole, right? So when you get on a website, like when you're on a bad website, right? Like those government websites you go to that have like everything all over the place. You can't find anything, and the thing that you're looking for, you have to like really think hard about it, right? To navigate that website versus a website that makes sense, that you know exactly where to go because it's just instinctual, right? Like, oh yeah, I click that button. It's obvious, And so a UX designer is the person that is thinking through that process and being intentional about the design that you're seeing so that you can navigate it in a way that's easy for you and also create a pleasant experience.
Oh my gosh. So sorry, I'm going to derail just a minute and tell you this
Yeah.
crazy story about a website. So last night, my husband, he's a general contractor. We've been dealing with a permitting issue for a job he's supposed to have started months ago in the city. And they send this message, okay, you just go to the website and take care of this and pay the bill and it'll be done. Okay, yay, we can pay the bill. We're getting the permit. I go to the website. I'm telling you, I'm smart. I led technical teams. I get it. I know how to use a website. I am not kidding when I say it took me 45 minutes to figure out where the invoice was hiding, how to get it into my cart, then how to pay it, which then I received 3 confirmations that it was paid.
Yes. And then you're
So
freaking out like, did I pay it
did I
three
pay 3
times?
times? Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it wasn't cheap. So I was dying, but exactly what you just shared resonates. And it's so important for the end user to experience that great flow really when they come in. That's what keeps us coming back to Amazon, right? Getting all those things in our cart because it's easy.
Yeah.
So to some people who might be thinking, wow, that was a pretty big leap. What would you say were the top skills that actually were transferable for you? And I love
Yeah.
transferable skills because a lot of people overlook them. But which of your skills from teaching were transferable into this UX design space?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that is really what I had to learn was that like one of my biggest fears was, do I have to go back to school again? Because I have 3 degrees. I'm just gonna let you know. And
Some
I
of us
was
love
like,
school.
I know. And I mean, that was one of the reasons why I picked education. I'm like, oh, I love school. I could teach it, and I love kids. And so, but it was really like coming to recognize that no, I don't have to go back to school. I have all the foundational things that I need to be successful in this new career, even though it seems totally different. And I mean, I did have that design background already, but the things that I got from teaching were, the professionalism that I learned along that being in that career, and then the thinking through processes like how am I going to teach my kids to come into the classroom in the morning, and what is the structure that we're going to follow throughout the day, and planning lessons that have that makes sense to the audience that I'm teaching, and breaking things down in that way and thinking in very logical processes, because even though you might think of design as, art is whatever, anything can be art, like design has these principles that you follow, right? And so, and then just also like organizing my time wisely, as a UX designer, I feel like there's just more flexibility with how you choose to spend your time your in your day to day. Whereas with teaching, it was like you have to be here for the kids and here for the kid, and so being able to, plan out that day for my students is going to help me be able to plan out my day for myself too. So anyway.
No, that's so great. And I love that you are able to articulate that so well. One of the things I took a note, sometimes you'll see me typing. I took a quick note because you mentioned, no, I don't need to go back to school. I don't need more education. One of the slippery slopes I find with women is we worry so much about not being perfect. If I'm not perfect, they're not going to hire me. If I'm not perfect, I can't apply for this next job. And we will go to school ourselves to death to be ready for that next role and then be disappointed when we don't get it. The reality is most of what you need is within you unless you're, transitioning into becoming a heart surgeon or something, right? You've got the
Right.
skills. They're there.
Yes.
When I've met with other teachers who've transitioned, one of the things that I've found interesting is translating the language. So, from the teaching and education perspective into the corporate world perspective.
Mhm.
Did you have any specific strategies that you used that helped you translate that language so that your interview panels understood the value you were bringing?
Yeah, you definitely it brings to mind the idea of typing up a resume, right? And trying to articulate what you've done in your past jobs that will then inform the next employer that you're applying to that you are the best candidate, right? And so I will say, being a teacher and then trying to move into this corporate space that I don't have the experience in, there was definitely like this idea of, well, will they just think, what will they think of me? Like that, are they going to just think as this is ridiculous? All I've ever been was a teacher. Like that doesn't count, for whatever reason. And it really is interesting to kind of reflect on that, right? Like, how do we view education and the education system and the teachers and their careers in the education system versus somebody that works in corporate? I mean, like, just saying it right now, I feel differently, right? Like, you think corporate, you think successful CEO, you think, uh, high rise and lots of money or whatever. And then, I mean, not always, right? And then you think teachers and you think, oh, kids, like
Mhm.
it's not as serious, and it really is, it is serious. It's serious work. Like, kids are so important. Um, and it takes such like specific skills to really be able to manage 30 children like in a classroom, and teach and get the test scores. I mean, there's just so much to it that teachers don't really get credit for. Their like endurance and their stamina and their ability to multitask and do so many different things every single day. And also care for, you know, these kids. And um, as far as the language piece goes, like having to take your skills that are transferable and to say, in this area of UX design or whatever it is, this is how my skill over here as a teacher is applicable, right? Like, and you just have to just reword it just a little bit. You just gotta like tweak it a little bit to show your value. So I don't know if that answers the question
No,
completely.
it's absolutely the perfect answer. It's so funny. I think about, as I'm hearing your conversation, it's true. There's so much, you know, I take it kind of back to the stay-at-home mom and the working mom. There's like this whole, oh, she doesn't really do anything. She just stays at home. You couldn't have paid me to stay at home. Like there's
Yeah.
so many expectations and commitments and all these things, right? And there's so many skills that come with staying at home.
Mhm.
Um, in the teaching space, that person, she or he is usually very highly educated. They've got more education because it's required.
Yep.
They are organizing and leading a group of individuals who are not paid to listen to what they're told to do,
Right.
who are probably hopped up on Captain Crunch and have zero interest in sitting still for the next 3 hours learning something they don't care about right this minute. But they still are able to do their job and still meet the standards and the requirements. And when I hear from a teacher who tells me I want to transition, but I just don't have the skills, I think, wow, that is a
Yeah.
mindset we've got to change immediately. And I actually used this example with someone yesterday, but thinking about, a parent teacher conference, you don't
Yeah.
just show up, wing it, and go. You're coming into the room. You've already had a goals discussion or set a goal at the beginning of the year. Now you're partnering with your stakeholders to see
Yeah.
what we've got to do to drive this end result,
Yeah.
right? You just shift the language a little bit and
Yes.
have so much is transferable.
Yeah,
So,
it makes you think, as you're saying that example of like the data that you have to collect
oh,
on your students in order to make informed decisions about the lessons you're going to teach and the direction you're going to go, right? And it's just the same in the corporate world. You are collecting data as to how is this product performing and what do I need to change along the way in order to make it better or
exactly.
easier to use,
Motivating each
whatever it is.
individual based on
Yeah.
what they love or what inspires them. I mean, there's so much thinking about, different committees and things. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. All right. We won't spend all day on the teaching side because I could. I think our teachers deserve to feel as valued as they deserve to be. You couldn't leave me in a room alone with that many kids and expect me to come out after 6 hours looking anything like I look right now. I actually got licensed to do daycare when I had my son. I was like, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to do daycare. And that lasted about 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right back to work. So, oh my gosh. So, one of the things that's kind of interesting to me is as you made this big leap, you were going from a career that was fairly stable, even though maybe you weren't 100% in love with it. It's stable. Teachers generally have jobs for a very long period of time.
Mhm.
What really inspired you to take that risk and leave that perceived stability and go into something completely new?
Yeah. That is the thing. One of the things that held me back from making such a career pivot for so long. And like I mentioned earlier, you get you're influenced by outside people, right? Like people say
So
things
much.
and and then it makes you kind of like second guess yourself, right? And I had to get to a point where those benefits or that idea of stability was like the pain was bigger than the risk, I guess you could say, right? And so I had to let go a little bit and trust in myself that what walking away from education didn't mean walking away from stability because I know I've been a single working woman for 20 years. Like I'm going to figure it out, and and just being able to have that self-trust and the support to help me keep going when it got hard or got scary, because I did have a career coach at that time that really helped me with my perspective shift and then guided me, along the way as to the steps to take to get into this new industry. And so, yeah, I think your pain really has to start outweighing all the other things that are like keeping you there because it's stable or it makes more sense or what are people going to think, or I'm going to lose my benefits, whatever it might be. Like those are all normal things to worry about, but
Yeah.
it really comes down to loving yourself enough to know that you deserve more than health insurance.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
that's not what your
Yes.
life is about. It's about living life to the fullest and being your best self. And if you're in a place where you don't feel like you can be your best self, then you need to get to a point where you believe you deserve that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So powerful, Brittany. It's true. And what other people tell you, you have to learn to put that aside and think about yourself and be okay with that. It's okay to be a little selfish. There's a lot of people who will make us feel guilty because you're not grateful for what you have. It's
Yeah.
okay to be grateful for what you have and want something different or something more.
Yeah.
You have to sometimes recognize this isn't serving me anymore. I was here for a time and a place and a purpose, and now my purpose and time and place are shifting. So that's what's
Yeah.
going to happen. Um,
Yeah.
and
And
it's
who's
such
to,
a go ahead.
sorry. And who's
Yeah.
to say that why can't you choose that change? Because life's going to throw you something and you're going to have to change anyway, right? Like something's going to happen. You might have to, in my case, maybe change grades or change schools, and you didn't plan on it. Someone's telling you that's what you have to do, And it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa. Let's take our power back here and choose how we want our lives to change and then take those actions ourselves instead of being at the mercy of whatever kind of happens. So,
Yeah, absolutely. One of my changes was leaving the corporate world after a lot of time. I always say 2 decades in leadership because, we could kind of mask our age a little bit, but the reality is, as I was getting ready to leave, and there were a lot of things that were driving it, really my pull to my area of passion was one of them. But people were trying to talk me out of it.
Mhm.
But you put so much time into this. You make so much money. You have great benefits. I worked for the cable company. You have free cable. Girlfriend, I hadn't paid for cable, and
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever paid for cable. So I was like, wow, that's kind of a big deal, right? And then I start, to your point, really second guessing myself. Am I doing the right thing? Is this the best? And then finally had to get to that point, like you said, hiring a coach, having someone help me through the mindset shifts and all of those things that have brought me where I am. And I know we both are so much happier doing something a little different.
Yeah.
So good. Oh my gosh. So for our listener today who's really feeling this pull, like, oh my gosh, Brittany, speaking to my heart, how would you tell them that, well, let's rephrase this question. How would they know it's the right time for a career pivot? What's telling them it's time?
I think that it's really kind of sitting with yourself, and I want to say tapping into how is this affecting your body, your mental health, your physical health, the health of your relationships that mean the most to you. And when your job is affecting all of those things, or even some of those things negatively, and you are just, you're not energized by what you're doing, you're kind of pulled down by what you're doing, kind of like we mentioned earlier, I think that's a big sign that it's time. It's time for a change, and it's time to take back again your power of you are in control of your life. You get to choose, and believing that you deserve to be energized and excited and happy and to come home from work and be ready to be with your family or do the things that you love and not feel like your job is taking away from those things that are most important to you. Because yes, our job is very important. We spend most of our time during our lives working, which is which then means it's going to affect every other thing about your life. But your job actually isn't the most important thing, right? Relationships, the people you love are the most important thing. And so when those things are being affected negatively, that's, I think, your wake up call.
I love that. Do you find, and I'm just curious to see if you see this, do you find that a lot of women are suffering from symptoms of stress or health related things because they're so unhappy at the job that they refuse to leave?
I do. It's not 100% of the time, of course, but I just think of some of the stories that I heard as a teacher. Um, One in particular of a gal that was teaching for so long, she had to leave for a while to go to I don't even remember exactly what it was, but to go take care of herself at an institution so she could come back and perform. And I'm like, that is not okay.
It's not.
The fact that that is even something that happens. And I think a lot of the jobs that women gravitate towards are very centered around caring for other people, right? And that takes a lot of your energy, and it can really, because we are often heart-centered, nurturing individuals, it can take a toll, right? Pretty easily. And so if you're not able to find that balance in that particular version of, your expertise, right? Like, let's find another space where you can still use those talents that come naturally to you, those do the things that you love, impact the people that you care about, and also be able to balance the energy that it's consuming from you, and because by it affecting you so much, it is going to then start taking a toll on your health. So,
Yeah. It seems like, and this happened to me for a while, it has happened to others that I've met with. We start feeling the symptoms and we just keep ignoring them, or we mask them, oh, it's just migraines, I'll just take a medication for
yeah.
that. Or, oh, it's just acid reflux, I'll just take a medication for that. And then once we make that change, I know this happened for me. So I see a naturopath and I have been for about 15 years now. And I had tests run right about 4 months before I left. And then again, less than 6 months after I left. And that second round of tests, she said, "What's different?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "This is the first time ever that everything in your system is in balance.
Wow.
Like all the stress hormones, all of our lady hormones, all of the hormones, all the
Mhm.
things." She's like, "What changed?" I said, "I left my job." She's like, "Yeah, it was killing you." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, slowly every day."
Yes.
Not to mention the not wanting to get out of bed and hop on another plane to the East Coast or, whatever it
Yes.
is. So,
Yeah.
there definitely are signs and you definitely feel it. It's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, curious to know, what is the biggest lesson you've learned from your own career transition at this point?
Mhm.
And how has it shaped the way that now you're helping others?
One of the first things that comes to my mind is the fact that I feel like this transition really allowed me to start like finding my voice again. As a teacher, there's a lot of things that feel out of your control. Um, and as much as you want to speak up, sometimes it doesn't feel like you're allowed to, or that it's going to be okay to speak your mind. And that's often how I felt. And even working in a job where I thought I was hiding my unhappiness pretty well, right? So I felt like I couldn't really talk about it. Um, or tell anybody that I don't like my job, like these are the people I work with every day. Like I can't tell them that, they can't know.
Yeah.
And so coming from that feeling, that environment, and moving into the the corporate space, the design space, the team that I ended up landing on was a very vocal team, and our our design meetings got pretty heated sometimes, and it was definitely a learning curve for me to sit there and kind of observe how everything was going down, and to then build that like confidence to interject and like speak in my opinion, or say what I thought. And I really think that over time, I have gotten that confidence back to speak up and be, what I thought was being abrasive, right? Is just being confident and like, and knowing that I have something of value to offer and I'm going to say it, and I don't need to keep it to myself. I can express it. And so I think that's been like a really big change for me.
Oh my gosh. So much power. So much in just that short couple of sentences from you. I can see that how much of a difference it's had on you as a person and finding your voice, right? I mean, so often, and this happens in the corporate world too. There's this I can't speak up, or people are going to think I'm just rude, or I'm a bitch, or whatever the word is people want to pick to label us with. And the reality is, your voice is needed. Your voice is able to change the company, your team, the world. It
Yeah.
could change one person's life. And
Yeah.
it's so powerful. And if we hold it in and we're playing small and worried about making other people comfortable all the time, we don't serve anybody. So,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, so good.
And I do think that working in an industry that has more men than women,
Mhm.
versus an industry that had more women than men, and being able to observe the men in that capacity of being able to just say whatever's on their mind, and it's like, I can do that too. Okay, cool. Like, you're not going to be offended if I just tell you what I think. Okay, cool. Like, and it's just very interesting how your environment also kind of influences some of those things as well.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Such a great place to be. And just being able to bring yourself fully is such a good feeling. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I love that for you so much. And I love that for our listeners because I know that there's some great nuggets being dropped today. And I hope that we hear some great feedback from someone who's taking some shifts maybe today. So, if somebody wants to learn more from you and understand more about what you do, first of all, why don't you share a little bit more about how you share your voice and how you're helping others maybe make similar transitions?
Yeah, of course. So I have a podcast called Shift Your Day Job, and I am coming up on the year mark. So I've been doing it for a whole year now, and season 2 starts next week. I'm super excited. And it's all about interviewing women who have made career changes and empowering you, giving you the the inspiration from their stories, because there's always some theme that's going to come up that would resonate, because we're all human, we're all navigating this life, and dealing with things, and also giving you practical tips on how you can start shifting your mindset and start taking those actions towards a new career. And then I also offer one-on-one coaching services for anybody who is interested in making that shift, but maybe they don't know what they want to do next, or they're, a little hesitant. I'd love to chat with you. I have a website, shiftyourdayjob.com, and you can connect with me there or on Instagram at shiftyourdayjob as well. And I also have a free resource for you on my website, the Career Transition Blueprint, where you'll answer a few questions, and then I will respond to you with where you are in your career change process and what are your next steps you can start taking in order to get the ball rolling for you. So,
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So we will drop all of those links into the show notes and make sure that our listeners know how to connect with you, how to follow you. I definitely encourage everyone to add Shift Your Day Job podcast to your favorite list. It's one I listen to. I listen to podcasts every morning when I'm getting ready. And so it's right in my rotation. So I love when I get to hear a new episode. Brittany, is there anything that you'd like to share or add on before we end today's interview?
you don't have to do everything all at once. And if you're feeling that tug or that pull that something needs to change, pick one thing to start with, right? I'm not here to tell anybody to quit your job without a plan and just wing it. But I do believe that we all deserve to be happy in our lifetime. And if you're not quite there yet because of your career, then let's start making some moves, right? Little shifts, a little bit at a time, and figure out a better place to land. So, yeah.
I love that. One step at a time, and we all deserve to be happy. So, we definitely appreciate you for joining us today, Brittany. It has been a pleasure having you here, and we look forward to staying connected.
Yes,
Thank you.
definitely. Thank you so much.
Wow, so many great messages today in just such a short amount of time. If you've been feeling stuck in your job or career, and it just doesn't feel like it fits anymore, I hope you realize that you are not alone. And I hope you found some strength and inspiration today as Brittany shared her journey. Her message is so powerful and covered so many topics. We talked about transferable skills, imposter syndrome, knowing that you're worth it and you don't deserve to be miserable or unhappy. If you want to learn more about how Brittany can help you take the first step toward your own remix, be sure to reach out to her. All of the links she shared will be in our show notes. And if you're feeling pulled in a different direction and looking for a different kind of remix, be sure to check the show notes as well. I have a little something in there for you. I love teaching how to leverage your decades of leadership experience to build a coaching business you love before leaving your coaching job. So grab our free resource, Your Corporate Escape Plan, 10 Steps to Map Your Bold Next Act. It's your roadmap to making it happen. All of the links, as I said, will be in the show notes. And if you could do us a favor, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review. This will help more listeners find us and get inspiration from our fabulous guests, like Brittany. Thank you so much for joining. And until next time, stay fierce. And remember, just one small change can make you so much happier. Take care, friend.